I recently got a comment on one of the YouTube pages from Andre, who was asking me about resources for the Enneagram Type 7. And so I have two thoughts as I got that response. The first is that a resource that I would offer would be Beatrice Chestnut's new book, The Complete Enneagram. I found it to be one of the most comprehensive books I've seen as relates to understanding the psycho-spiritual dimension of type. And another resource would be Ginger Lapid Bogda's if you want Enneagram development for your type. It's a very practical resource. She works primarily with the Enneagram in business. And then I love the work of Suzanne Zurcher. The Seven Mind, Suzanne was a 4, and the Seven Mind seems to respond to kind of her non-linear way of presenting the centers, which is very much how I work. So with that in mind, I want to just talk a little bit about, to Andre and to any other 7s out there listening, is that I would caution you as a 7, it's so appealing for us to read about the type, and when what we're really often looking for is how are we going to develop within this type? Now that I know my type, now what next? So after you really start getting a real strong handle on your type, I would really encourage you to start practicing with it and start using the insights of the Enneagram with your practice. So from this perspective, let's look at 3 centers. From the head center, as if you're a 7, start noticing how your attention goes to planning, pleasure, and possibility, and usually planning is the first thing that shows up. So you might start noticing how, that you're planning a project or you're thinking ahead. You start getting to the parts that are difficult and you start planning something different. And it's a constant, actually, and if you're sitting in meditation practice, it's constantly there. A heart-centered practice would be starting to learn to really, really tune into another human being. Look at them, and sometimes what is useful for 7s is to actually focus on your heart, connecting to their heart. You can see them as they are to themselves rather than looking at them. You look as them. What would it be like to be this person? What would it be like to stand in their shoes? And then really listen fully. Let somebody else finish their line of thinking. 7s have this tendency to assume they know what somebody's going to say before they finish saying it. So it might even be helpful for you to sit back in your chair, take a deep breath, notice how you want to kind of push forward, notice how you want to interrupt, and just come back to yourself. And then just through your breathing, connecting with the other person's heart. And I would say a body practice, so if we're looking at the 3 centers, head, heart, and body, a body practice would be simply breathing in and noticing where that kind of go-ahead energy, how does it house itself in your body? So for some 7s, they'll describe, my heart starts to accelerate, or my solar plexus kind of starts to heat up and I can almost feel like an anxious buzz. You might notice that you get kind of jittery. So find one sensation in your body, step back, sit, set the intention to just stay focused for a couple of minutes and breathe gently into that sensation without judgment. Welcome it, allow it to be there. And if I were guiding you in something like that, I would just ask you to pause and to bring your attention to that actual sensation and just drop into the sensation, welcome it, and breathe into it. And do it real slowly for a couple of minutes and then just notice what happens. Because 7s tend to have a generous amount of life force and you've got this real go-ahead energy, so it's really important to attend to the body and what's happening in